Hey, Bethany Church people. We're separated now. It's a very strange and new situation. I've never in my ministry had to deal with this sort of thing before, and I bet you haven't as a church. I'm trying to see it as an opportunity to learn some new things. And one new thing that I will try to do is figure out how to speak to you through videos. And I know lots of people manage this, so I should be able to as well. I think Paul, the Apostle Paul, writing the New Testament, would have totally embraced new technology whenever he got the chance. I'm thinking about some beautiful verses in Romans chapter 1. And Paul is separated from the church at Rome. In fact, he's never met the church at Rome. He's heard about them. He knows he loves them already. And he wants to speak a good word of introduction and of encouragement to them. And he wants to connect with them right away, his audience, his church brothers and sisters whom he's never met. And he begins pretty early on in his letter to the Romans to express how deeply he wants to be with them. I think in this current situation where we're very aware of our need for togetherness and mutuality, where we're feeling our absence from one another, our separation, I think it's nice to think about Paul writing to the church at Rome from whom he was separated. Look at verse 11. He says, I long to see you. I want to see you so that I can impart to you some strength, some mutual encouragement. This is why we do church, really. I mean, there are lots of organizations out there that do good things. There's lots of clubs and activities and fellowship we can have in lots of other ways. But it's really important for our life as a church that we encourage one another. Mutual encouragement. This is why we do church. This is why we worship. This is why we do Bible study. This is really why we do meetings. This is why we teach the young people and ourselves in continued learning. This is what we're about, mutual encouragement in the faith as disciples of Jesus. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to know how to minister or how to go forward as witnesses in the world or how to be together for things that matter to us. And so mutual encouragement is one reason why we do church. Paul says, I long to see you in verse 11. Now, Paul, as a leader, also models right behavior, which is helpful to us in a period of separation. He says in verse 9, I always mention you in my prayers without fail. He's praying for people he hasn't even met before. So how much more should we be in constant prayer for each other as brothers and sisters in Bethany United Methodist Church and in the community there? And when he gets together with them, he says he will offer spiritual gifts to them. He will most likely, when he's with them, pray with them and teach them Bible and teach them how to be a church. He'll probably baptize, he'll probably serve communion, he'll fellowship at the table, he might work with them on some projects, he might go visiting with them, all kinds of ways that he will offer them spiritual gifts to strengthen them. That's what we look forward to when we gather together on Sundays on the church campus. Those are the kind of things that we share in, those spiritual gifts that strengthen and encourage us. He will encourage them in their calling. And in verse 7, we see that their calling is to be saints, to be holy people, set apart and dedicated for the love of God and the service of humanity. They are called to be saints, and he wants to encourage them so that they can all live it out together in their faith. He admires them for their faith. It's proclaimed in all the world, he says in verse 8. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration. But somehow, wherever he is in Asia Minor, he has heard of the faith of the people in the church at Rome. And it can't have been a very big church. It was not a very experienced church. It was not the perfect church. But he has heard somehow that there are Christians in Rome. I wonder where in Georgia, where in the world people have heard of the faith that we share over there just outside of Jefferson at Bethany. Has anyone in the world heard of the faith that we share at Bethany United Methodist Church? It's a good question to think about. He says in verse 13, he longs to go and be with them because he wants to seek a harvest. Now, I know it's completely the wrong time of year for us in North Georgia to be thinking about harvest. But I've pondered that, because what does that mean when a pastor wants to see a harvest, who longs for a harvest? What I want to see in church is I want to see people growing. I want to see people bearing fruit. I want to know that our preaching and our teaching and our mission and service opportunities and our giving is bearing fruit. And it's fruit that does certainly benefit us, but it also benefits the world and is a living witness to our faith, to our prayers, to our generosity. He wants to see mission, and he wants to see evangelism at work. He wants to meet new believers. He wants to welcome new people into the life of faith. That's fruitfulness. That's the harvest that he wants. What do we want to see when we come back together? And it'll go by fast, and in just a couple of weeks we'll be back together again. And at first we'll be very, very grateful and very aware of what we've missed by being separated. But it won't take very long at all before we're back into the same old ways and the same old routines and the same old priorities and the same old discussions. Let's instead maybe think about what kind of harvest we'd like to see when we come back together, so that this time offers us a challenge and maybe offers us a gift. None of us asked for a 2-week retreat, being stuck in our houses or separated from people and places and work that matters to us. None of us asked to make this kind of sacrifice. But let's offer it up to the Lord. It's Lent. Let's offer it up to Jesus and offer it up as a prayer and offer it up with thanksgiving, aware that things could be worse. Aware of our blessings. Let's count on those. Let's make it a Lenten retreat, and let's think about the harvest we'd like to see at Bethany. I asked in my sermon last week, what's next for Bethany? What kind of calling do we have? What is God calling forth from us as we go forward into 2020? So let's maybe take this time for prayer and for reflection. I would like to suggest that you go through the church directory and pray for everybody. Pray for everybody that's in that. And remember, we have some who are newer people, not listed in the church directory. Think about what we would like to celebrate together. What can be a harvest at Bethany Church? Let's ask Jesus to be at work among us, to accomplish something in us while we are apart. Let's let our faith be such that people hear about it even far away. Let our prayers be constant and full of thanksgiving. Y'all, I just love you. I miss you. And I'll try and offer a couple more videos from time to time while we're apart. And I hope you'll pray for me in that.